I, Preeti Birla, Assistant Professor of Biani Group of Colleges on behalf of GuruKPO.com. Here today I am going to present about communication barriers. Yes, first of all, we will discuss what is communication in simpler sense. Communication, this word comprises of Latin word communis and communicare, which stands for making common or let people know about different ideas, knowledge and informations. In that sense, communication is what? Making common. But when barriers come, that communication got obstacled and hurdled. And what kind of barriers can come in the path of communication are majorly four categories. Those are physical and mechanical. Second one is semantic or linguistic barrier. Third one is psycho-sociological barriers. And fourth one is organizational barriers. These are the four major categories which can make barriers in the path of communication. First of all, we will go to the physical and mechanical barrier. Those are barriers in which, suppose noise is there. One is speaking and there is lots of noise in the background. For example, listeners, if there is a noise when I am speaking, then it won't be going direct towards you. So, this kind of barrier will be called as noise in communication barrier. Second one is poor listening and poor lighting. Yes, of course. One is speaking or one is showing you some visual aids. That time if lightings are not proper, suppose if I am lecturing you and the board is not properly visible, that time yes, it will create as the barrier for communication. Third one here is time and distance. The time exactly between the people and the distance when talking and when communicating orally or face to face. Yes, is of course one barrier in physical and mechanical barrier. Fourth one is defect in medium. Right now these days we are very tech savvy and that use mobile, different technical gadgets like internet, email and those. If there is connectivity defect in the mobile, then that time it is called as the defect in medium. One is speaking from basement and one is there in some remote area. That time it will create as the defect in mobile connection. As well, internet server down, that is also defective medium, tech savvy barriers. Fifth one is excessive message. There is a set rate of speaking word per minute by a person. Like the audience, when we write the words, there is equal amount of space. Same way when we speak, there should be some space between our words given towards the audience. If there is no space between the words, it will be overlapped and those words will not be sound properly. At times stammering, at times repetition of word again are the same barriers in this excessive message. As well, there is a capacity of one to understand and grasp the message, whether how interesting it is. A person can gulp and extract that message only which is as per his or her capacity. But if the message is very much excessive, then the person will not be getting the message properly and it will create the barrier in the physical and mechanical barrier. The next one is disturbance in privacy. Two people are talking. This kind of barrier can occur in mechanical too, in technical barriers. Like some people are talking in the telephone or video chatting and there is no privacy. And some people are talking face to face, there is no privacy. So that also create the barrier in communication because the speaking person or the speaker is not very much comfortable due to the privacy reasons. Next comes here is less message. If the message is again not access but is not properly drafted, like if I am not using the proper words to communicate my message in written, in oral and in all kind of message, then again it will be created as a physical barrier in communication. Second barrier and very important one is semantic and linguistic barrier. The barriers which occur because of language. Like if I use the word miss and I say I miss you, whereas I use this word miss as a different sense also. You missed my class. In both the sentences, the same word miss has been used in a different aspect. So this one particular barrier is a linguistic barrier which is also created in lots of things. Suppose if I say, what is the value of this ring? It means here I am asking about the price. But if I ask what is the value of this lecture? That is again I am asking about the price. But if I ask I value my good name, that is as Preeti Birla, I value my name, it means I respect my name. Here I am using this value as a respect. As well, we use this value as a different meanings. So this kind of barriers are, if one is saying in a different sense the value and another person is asking in a different sense, then it will create the havoc. So for example, I give an example in the sense, suppose if I ask some student, get this book, it is a very cheap, and I ask some student, this is a cheap book. In both the sentences, the used word cheap, in first sentence it is used as the lesser price, whereas in the second sentence it is used as the low addition kind of book. So here it creates the linguistic barrier. Semantic barrier are more connotations and denotations. Yes, some words have no meaning. Suppose chair, table, this whiteboard, they are just the way they are. But some words, they have their meaning in negative as well in positive sense. Happy, positive, ugly, negative. So if these words, as I have said, cheap, sasta, cheap, this means lesser price, right? Next comes here is psycho-sociological barriers. If I am talking to my boss and I get very much interacted with my boss, that time I am influenced by his status, I am influenced by his higher post. That type of barrier is called sociological barriers. Psychological barriers, due to the unknown fear, presumptions about some speaker or some person, those kind of barriers are psychological barrier. No one create those kind of barrier, no barrier exactly is there, but once psychology is creating the barrier, and that time psychological barrier exactly prevails, and that really create the havoc in communication and create as a bigger communication barrier. The last one is the organizational barrier. Yes, it is a great barrier and it is a great hindrances in communication. In what sense? If there is a long scalar chain and one has to prove and one has to journey the long scalar chain to get the message from upward to downward and from downward to upward, then again it creates the communication barrier. Like we have played in our childhood again, Chinese whisper. The message got lost in between. Next comes here is selection of wrong medium. Suppose to say something or to announce something which I must have done orally, but I have chosen the written medium, then it again becomes the organizational barrier. If there is a 500 people's organization and there is going a circular for something very important meeting, no, it should go orally. In what sense? In an announcement towards a meeting. Next comes here is policies and rules. Yes, confused policy and rules are again the organizational barriers. If there is a not equal rule for all, if there is a not equal policies for all, then again it creates the organizational barrier, and people start doing all three barriers in the pressure of organizational barrier. Next comes here is lack of communication. If a person is not doing communication properly, is not very much confident, is not very much comfortable about the communication one is doing, then again the organizational barrier creates. And then last one is line and staff relationship. In the organizational hierarchy, if the line and staff relationships are not clear, if one is becoming boss in his place, not being a boss but being a subordinate, one is not playing the responsibility, one is not playing the role of authority, then those kind of relations, those kind of relationships as a line and staff creates the barrier for communication. So in a nutshell, audience, what I want to say is communication, it is very good thing, ultimately fabulous, but the thing is when it is attached with the barriers, it creates havoc, it creates the unmeaning and unwanted things in the organization. So try level best to cope up with these barriers, as well whenever these barriers come, try to remove them from their points. So for further queries, if you want to know, visit gurukpo.com, and thank you and thank you for listening.